Oh, my whole life. We're a peninsula on the end of a peninsula. It's not a place you just stop in. You have to want to choose to come here. But we've been fighting for recognition since my dad first planted the first vines back in '74 here. And I've seen other regions become better known, but that's pretty much the case anywhere in the East. We're still fighting for recognition. Actually, all the forces were aligned to say it wouldn't work because there was a lot of grapes being grown in southern Michigan, and for jellies and jams, and also there's an old wine industry there, but based off of native varieties or hybrids. And my father really had no time for that. He spent some time importing wine from Germany and northern France, and became enamored of it, and fell in with a bunch of German winemakers and a professor named Dr. Becker from the wine school in Geisenheim, and put two and two together and thought that because they grew fruit here, especially sweet cherries and peaches and things, that would be prime Riesling area. And he was the only one that thought that. No one else did. All the academics at MSU and everybody was like, what gave a lot of like, I don't think it'll work. And so he planted about 20, 25 acres in one fell swoop. And here we are all these years later. It wasn't really until the early 90s that things really started taking off here. And that's when we started seeing more wineries built on the Old Mission Peninsula. And then since then, it's been pretty steady. Okay, it's complicated.
It's really complicated. I like that story. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, Chateau Grand Travers is my family's winery. My father moved the whole family up here in the early 70s to plant Riesling and later Chardonnay, Merlot, Gamay, these kind of things. And I've been making wine for the Lagana family for about 10 years, and at this winery for about 3. Well, my father planted at Chateau Grand Travers the first vinifera vines in 1974 as a test vineyard, and then commercial plantings, in '76 and '77, and that was the first major vinifera planting in Michigan, and really, outside of Constantine Frank in the Finger Lakes in the east. We forget that most of the wineries are not that old. Prohibition did a real number on wineries in the United States, and it wasn't until the late '60s. And then anytime there's a boom cycle in the economy, there's more wineries, usually in the West Coast, whether it be oil or silicon or whatnot. And then here in the East, it's usually a lot of people that had a vision that just didn't, it's usually people that preferred cooler climate varieties, that had a more European bent, and whether it be upstate New York or here or Niagara Peninsula in Canada or Virginia, there's a lot of interesting things going on. Yeah, the Lagana family traced their, half of it's on Marty's side is Croatian and Italian. And luckily we overlap a little bit in climate that we can grow some of these varieties here. Refosco, Scapatino, Friuliano, Pinot Bianco, things like this. Our first winemaker for my family's winery was not Croatian, but Serb, Miles Karakozovic, who has Domaine Charbet in Napa now. So yeah, they get around. Well, as my father, when he was growing up in Philadelphia, he had 3 options: either go in the priesthood, become a cop, or go in the booze business. And here we are. Well, it seemed like glorified farming in the beginning. So I studied German literature and a little bit of Russian at University of Michigan. And I didn't want to go to graduate school. Because pretty much the only outlet at that point would be probably intelligence services or becoming a lawyer or something like that. And that didn't seem like a nice path. So I went over to Germany to perfect my German, my language skills. And I worked at our first winemaker from Chateau Grand Travers winery as worked in a cellar. And then I actually decided to pursue winemaking and became an apprentice, and eventually made my way to Geisenheim, the school I mentioned before. I liken it's kind of like the Hogwarts of Riesling. Basically, you just, in a couple years there, you just basically Riesling, and occasional, nod to Pinot Noir or something like that. And came back here, worked for my family for 10, 14 years, and then I moved over with the Laganas here when they opened up this winery. This is a serious investment. This building will be here in one shape or form for hundreds of years, and we're built into the ground. We're gravity flow winery. You can see the beautiful the STÜCKs we have from Germany behind me, and the caves we have. It's a serious venture, and we have beautiful vineyards, which is the most important part, all over the peninsula here as well. So when Marty and his family decided to do this, they want to do everything right, and to me it was a great opportunity to take everything I've learned and actually try to take Michigan to the next level. And some of it is, it's having the right facilities and the right vineyards, but some of it's also the right attitude about what grape varieties we grow and what and where and how we market, which are always evolving things, especially for emerging wine regions. The first vintage was 2016 here, so we're going on third year here. So, well, when I studied winemaking in Germany, these all the really top winemakers that I liked were ones that I wouldn't say retro, but ones that use like Kohler Ruprecht and these. For me, they're famous names. For other people, they might not know, but they were making wine in these large STÜCKs, and there's been a trend in modern winemaking with stainless steel and other things where you control the temperature, you control the air intake, you control everything. And sometimes it's good to let your hands off the handlebars a little bit, let the wine make itself. And these STÜCKs act in a good way in the sense that they're not temperature controlled. I kind of let them do what they need to do, but they're shaped in such a way that it keeps the yeast mixed in there very well. The oval shape creates convection currents and it stirs the yeast up, and I like that for our white wines because that adds a mid palate and some nice, what the Japanese call umami, that kind of just that sense of savoriness to the wines. And there's also, the people who are fermenting in oak, it wasn't just because stainless steel comes around doesn't mean it's always an improvement. The actual wood has a charge on it that helps precipitate out some of the proteins and things that can haze up a wine. So there's some real, of course they look cool and they have a nostalgic factor as well, but I just like them. So for me, one of the goals is I've been making Riesling my whole life, and now here at Mari we're doing Sauvignon Blanc and Friulano, and some of these are associated with Northern Italy. And the STÜCKs really help because they make wines that have a little exposure to oxygen. They're built for long aging, and that's been key for me because I don't want to just make a wine that's $9.99 and you drink it that season and it's gone. I want something that evolves.